When you tell your American friends you're going to Iran, they don't plan a welcome party. They plan an intervention. The news paints Iran as a sepia-toned danger zone, but I decided to go anyway, and to make it even more dramatic, I chose to couchsurf. My mind was full of worst-case scenarios, expecting shadowy hosts and tense silences. What I found instead was a place where hospitality is a competitive sport, and the only real danger is being overfed by someone's grandmother. As the wheels of my plane touched down at Tehran Imam Khomeini International Airport, I felt a strange mix of anticipation and anxiety. For weeks, friends and family had warned me about what to expect: grim faces, suspicious stares, and a sense of ever-present danger. The media had painted a picture of Iran as a place where outsiders were met with hostility, where every move was watched, and where the air itself seemed thick with suspicion. I peered out the window, searching for any sign of the tension I'd been told to expect, but all I saw was a sprawling city waking up under the soft morning light. I braced myself as I approached the customs counter, rehearsing answers to questions I imagined would be sharp and probing. Instead, the official glanced at my passport, looked up, and broke into a warm smile. "Welcome to Iran," he said, his tone genuine and almost cheerful. The tension I'd been carrying in my shoulders began to melt away. There were no interrogations, no suspicious glances, just a simple, heartfelt greeting that felt more like a welcome home than an entry into a foreign land. As I stepped into the arrival hall, I spotted my host, Arash, waving enthusiastically from across the crowd. He rushed over and pulled me into a bear hug, his laughter echoing above the din of travelers. Before I could catch my breath, his mother appeared, her eyes sparkling with kindness. She greeted me with the traditional double-cheek kiss, a gesture that felt both intimate and deeply welcoming. Then, as if she'd known me for years, she pressed a flask of steaming hot tea into my hands, a small act of hospitality that spoke volumes about the warmth of Iranian culture. Within minutes, I found myself swept up in the embrace of their family. Instead of being interrogated or eyed with suspicion, I was ushered into their circle as if I were a long-lost relative. The living room buzzed with laughter and conversation, the air fragrant with the scent of cardamom and fresh bread. Every gesture, every smile seemed to say, "You are welcome here." It was a far cry from the cold reception I'd been warned about. As we drove through the bustling streets of Tehran, the conversation turned not to politics or warnings, but to food. Arash and his family took turns recommending their favorite kebab spots, the best bakeries for fresh sangak, and the hidden cafes where you could find the creamiest saffron ice cream. They debated the merits of different street vendors with the seriousness of food critics, and I found myself jotting down names and addresses, eager to taste everything. The city outside the window was alive with color and movement, and the only thing anyone seemed worried about was whether I'd have time to try it all. The only real threat I faced that morning wasn't political at all. It was the precarious balancing act of sipping hot tea while navigating Tehran's famously chaotic traffic. Every swerve and sudden stop sent the tea sloshing dangerously close to the rim of my cup, and I quickly learned that keeping my clothes stain-free was a far greater challenge than anything I'd imagined at customs. The family laughed at my attempts, offering playful advice on how to master the art of drinking tea on the go, a skill they assured me every true Tehrani possessed. I realized, as we shared stories and laughter, that the real story of Iran wasn't the thriller I'd been led to expect. There were no shadowy figures lurking in the background, no sense of impending doom. Instead, it felt like I'd stumbled into a family comedy, one where the punchlines were about spilled tea and the only suspense was whether I'd embarrass myself trying to pronounce the names of local dishes. The warmth and humor of my hosts turned every moment into a celebration of connection and hospitality. By the time we reached their apartment, the only real suspense left was when I'd be asked to take off my shoes, a small but meaningful ritual in every Iranian home. As I slipped them off and stepped inside, I realized that the pitchforks I'd been warned about were nowhere to be found. Instead, I was greeted by the simple, everyday kindness of a family eager to share their world with me. And in that moment, I knew. The greatest surprise of all was just how quickly Iran had begun to feel like home. The first cultural hurdle I encountered in Iran wasn't the language, the food, or even the bustling city streets, it was the bathroom. It's funny how something so basic, so universal, can suddenly feel like a puzzle when you're far from home. I remember stepping into my host's bathroom for the first time, expecting the usual setup only to be greeted by a scene that felt both familiar and completely foreign. There, next to the toilet, was a mysterious little hose, sleek, silver, and utterly perplexing. Was it for washing your feet, putting out fires, watering a secret bathroom plant? I had no idea. I stood there staring at it, trying to decode its purpose, feeling like I'd stumbled onto a secret level of a video game I'd never played before. After a few awkward attempts to figure it out on my own, let's just say there was more water on the floor than anywhere else, I finally swallowed my pride and asked my host, Arash, for help. He grinned, clearly amused, and explained, with a kind of national pride, that this was the shataf, a bidet hose, and that it was the gold standard of bathroom hygiene. Much better than toilet paper, he insisted, as if revealing a well-kept secret. In that moment, I realized I was the clueless American, being gently schooled in the art of cleanliness. It was humbling, a little embarrassing, but also strangely comforting to be let in on this everyday ritual. There's something universal about the bathroom, but also something deeply personal and cultural. Suddenly I was learning that even the most private routines can be a window into a new world. The shut-off quickly became a running joke among my friends and me, a symbol of all the little daily puzzles you solve as a traveler. Every time I'd get it wrong or someone would hear the telltale sound of water spraying, we'd burst out laughing. It was a reminder that travel isn't just about seeing new places, but about learning to laugh at yourself, to embrace the awkwardness, and to find joy in the unexpected. My first attempt was, predictably, a disaster. I pressed the handle a little too hard and suddenly there was water everywhere, on the floor, on my shoes, even on the walls. But instead of frustration, I found myself laughing, realizing that these little mishaps are part of the adventure. Each mistake was a lesson, and each lesson made me feel a little more at home. Sometimes adapting to a new culture means giving the bathroom floor an unexpected cleaning, or learning to ask for help when you're out of your depth. But it also means opening yourself up to new ways of living and finding humor in the things that once seemed strange. In the end, it's these small, everyday challenges that make travel so memorable and so much fun. In Iran, you are not allowed to pay for anything, ever. My first attempt to buy a souvenir ended with Arash blocking my hand and paying before I could blink. Every meal, every taxi, every coffee turned into a battle of generosity I was destined to lose. I tried sneaky tactics, paying while going to the bathroom, but my hosts always outmaneuvered me. It's a beautiful, bewildering code of hospitality, but for a Westerner, it's hilariously frustrating. You leave feeling grateful and a little like you've dined and dashed across a nation. In Iran, generosity is a full-contact sport. In America, come for a snack means chips. In Iran, it means a feast. Arash's aunt invited us for tea and a little something, which turned out to be a banquet of rice, stews, kebabs, and more. Every time I thought I was done, another dish appeared, and refusing food was a negotiation I always lost. Invitations for coffee became three-course meals. Just a bite meant enough food for an army. The only way to survive was to surrender and enjoy the ride. My best advice: pack elastic waist trousers. In Iran, hunger is not an option. Enter the art of polite refusal and insistence. My first taxi ride ended with me thinking it was free until Arash explained I'd failed the insist 3 times test. Every offer, tea, gifts, even prices required a ritual of refusal and insistence. In America, no means no. In Iran, it's just the start of a dance. Navigating is exhausting but fascinating, adding ceremony to daily life. My advice: always insist or risk accidentally stealing a taxi ride. When in doubt, just keep saying, "Please let me." Social gatherings in Iran are chaos. In the best way. There's no start or end time, no personal space, and everyone talks to everyone. Parties last until someone falls asleep on a cushion, and the idea of leaving early is met with confusion. There's no alcohol, but the energy is high. People connect through conversation, music, and laughter. As an American, it was overwhelming at first, but soon felt incredibly warm and inclusive. I realized how much we rely on alcohol as a social crutch back home. In Iran, people just show up ready to connect. Before you go, everyone gives advice, most of it useless. My tips: practice saying no thank you with conviction, leave your wallet at home, and forget about punctuality. If someone says 5 minutes, expect an hour. If dinner's at 8, show up at 9. The best advice? Ignore all advice. No list can prepare you for being welcomed like family or the taste of a home-cooked meal. Arrive with an open mind, a sense of humor, and a willingness to be confused. That confusion is where the real adventure begins. Before I landed in Iran, I had a script in my head. A highlight reel shaped by Instagram's glossy travel feeds. I pictured perfect sunsets, photogenic mosques, and plates of food arranged just so, all filtered through the lens of what I thought travel was supposed to look like. But the moment I arrived, Iran tore up that script and tossed it out the window, then handed me a new one, served quite literally with a heaping plate of saffron rice. Suddenly I realized that the stories I'd been fed online were just that, stories carefully curated and edited, missing the messy, beautiful reality that was waiting for me. The real Iran wasn't scary, nor was it the perfectly polished paradise I'd seen on my phone. Instead, it was something far more interesting. A place alive with contradictions, bursting with color, noise, and the kind of warmth that can't be staged for social media. I found myself in kitchens where the air was thick with the scent of spices and laughter, where families invited me in without a second thought, eager to share not just their food, but their stories, their jokes, and their lives. It was messy, it was human, and it was full of a radical hospitality that Instagram could never capture. What surprised me most wasn't the headscarf, or the absence of bars and nightlife. It wasn't the unfamiliar customs or the language barrier. The real shock was the overwhelming kindness that greeted me at every turn. Strangers became friends in an instant, offering directions, advice, and sometimes even their homes. There was a generosity of spirit that felt almost revolutionary, especially coming from a world where we're taught to be suspicious of the unknown. In Iran, the unknown was an open door, and I was welcomed inside with open arms. One of my most cherished memories is sitting cross-legged on a Persian carpet in a Tehran living room, sharing tea with a family I'd just met. The conversation flowed easily, even when words failed us, and every gesture was an act of trust. In that moment, I realized how far apart people and politics really are. The headlines and hashtags faded away, replaced by the simple, revolutionary act of sharing a cup of tea. It was a reminder that the world is full of good people, and that sometimes, the most powerful connections happen in the quietest moments. These moments can't be captured in a photo, no matter how many filters you use. You can't frame the feeling of being truly seen and welcomed, or the way laughter echoes through a home filled with strangers who quickly become friends. You have to live it, to let go of your expectations and allow yourself to be surprised. That's where the real magic of travel happens, not in the pictures you post, but in the memories you carry home. Couchsurfing in Iran was a roller coaster of emotions. Awkward at first as I stumbled through cultural differences and language gaps, but ultimately moving and unforgettable. Every meal shared, every story told, chipped away at the walls I didn't even know I'd built. I learned to embrace the awkwardness, to laugh at my mistakes, and to appreciate the beauty of genuine connection. By the time I said goodbye, I knew I'd experienced something rare, a glimpse into the heart of a country that defied every expectation. In the end, the best travel stories aren't the ones that fit neatly into an Instagram grid. They're the ones that shatter your assumptions, challenge your perspective, and leave you changed in ways you never expected. That's the real souvenir, the one you can't pack in your suitcase, but that you carry with you long after the journey ends.